Everyone, this is Nicholas JMV, and welcome to Angles and Angle Measure. Okay, so what we're going to do and what the objective today is to be able to not only draw angles in what's called standard position, but also to be able to identify an angle measured when given an angle drawn in standard position. So the first thing we need to know is what is standard position. Okay, so if you look at this nice picture on the right here, an angle is in standard position when the vertex, okay, is at the origin and one is on the positive x-axis. Okay, is at the origin and on the positive axis. Okay, so here we go. There's the origin. Okay, and the ray on the x-axis is called the initial side. So there's a ray here that you really can't see, and we'll draw this here. So there's a ray, line segment goes out with an arrow. There's our ray. This guy is called the initial side. Okay, the other ray is the terminal side, and this is the one that in the blue here that hangs out in the quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4, or sometimes even on the x and y axes, but it's this blue one that hangs off. The other thing here that we have to notice is this red arrow, and that's important when we get down to the next step here. So we actually have to include this, because without this we wouldn't be able to tell whether our angle is going to be positive or negative in these types of examples. So when you look at angles, okay, angles can either be a positive value or a negative value, and it just depends on the way you look at it. Pardon me. So to understand if the angle measure is positive or negative, let's look at the following pictures. Okay, we got a little typographical error here. So when an angle measure is positive, okay, you're going to measure counterclockwise. Let me move that down a little bit. Okay, so you're going to measure counterclockwise. Notice our arrow goes up and around, so it's going counterclockwise. If you think of a clock, circular counterclockwise, that is going to mean that we have a positive angle. Okay, and when you go clockwise, so when you just go down, okay, notice that this angle is negative 210 degrees. So that is how we tell the difference between positive and negative angles. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to draw some pictures here. We got a little typo here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and draw a couple of angles for you. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Let's draw an angle with the given measures in. We got to do standard position. Okay, so that means we have to have a vertex here at the origin. Okay, whoops. We have vertex at the origin, and then we have the initial side on the positive x-axis. Okay, so when we draw this, okay, you have to remember we're going to go down this time because it's a negative angle, so we're going to go down. And so this, instead of representing 270, this is negative 90 degrees. Here is negative 180 degrees. Okay, here is negative 270. Okay, 270 degrees, and then here would be negative 360 degrees. Okay, so if we were looking at drawing an angle that's negative 185, it's going to be barely past this line here, this x-axis. So it's going to look something like this straight out. Okay, now it's harder to draw on the track pad or the pad here. So straight line out, and that is roughly negative 185 degrees. So I'll go ahead and now draw my line that I need and indicate we're going around like this so people know. So there is negative 185 degrees. Okay, so let's look at the second angle, 280 degrees. That is a positive angle. Okay, so when we look at this, here is our positive 90 degrees. Okay, so if we start at origin, draw the initial side. Okay, so here's 90, here's positive 180, because we're going the positive direction. We're going to be going counterclockwise. Here's 270 degrees. So we know that our angle here is going to be 10 degrees past 270. So I can try to sketch this in as best I can. Something like that probably. Okay, it's about as good as I'm going to get it there. So we're going to go ahead now and draw our arrow around this way, indicating that is a positive angle measure. And that's how you draw angles in standard position. Now, in the bottom one, the bottom examples here, okay, again, sorry, there was some size discrepancy here. There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. So let's find the measure of each angle. So notice how they've drawn these for us, which is nice. And now we have to identify what angles they are. So if we look here, we have a 20-degree angle, okay, and it's going down. So a couple of things you want to notice first. This is going to be a negative angle, okay, it's a negative angle because we're going down. So that's one thing, okay. Now, if we go down, this is negative 90. Now, a lot of people might refer to this as what we call below the reference angle. It is not, but it's giving us some type of reference from the y-axis. Okay, so we're 20 degrees past negative 90. So if we take negative 90, right, and take away 20 more, we're at negative 110 degrees. That is this angle measure right here, negative 110 degrees. Okay, now let's look at our second angle here. Notice how we're going counterclockwise. So this angle is going to be a positive angle. Okay, it's going to be a positive angle. And notice how we are here, if this is 90, okay, and we go 70 degrees past 90. Okay, so 90 and 70 make 160. Okay, so that angle measure is 160 degrees. Okay, and finally, this one's a really large angle. Notice how many circles we have. Okay, and we're going down first. So this is going to be a negative angle. Okay, and let's look how many times we have to go around the circle here. So let's see, let's follow this. This is one time around, so that's negative 360 degrees, right? It's a circle. And then we go around again, so that's another negative 360, so that's so far negative 720 degrees, okay? And then we go around negative 90, negative 180, so I'm going to subtract 180 more, so that is negative 900 degrees. Now look, we've got this little space left, so we're 50 degrees from it, so that means this is 40 degrees. And we'll talk about this orange in a second. So our final answer, we're going to be at negative 940 degrees. Okay, so that's how you measure angles. Now I want to make a quick note about what a reference angle is. A reference angle is an acute angle, that means between 0 and 90 degrees, that is formed by measuring the angle from the terminal side to the x-axis. So this 40 degrees, here's the terminal side measured to the x-axis. That reference angle is 40 degrees, and sometimes we might do this as theta reference. Reference angle is 40 degrees. Here, notice how this is 70. That means my reference is 20 degrees. So theta reference here equals 20 degrees. And here, if it's 20 degrees from there, that means this angle is 70 because each quadrant is 90 degrees. So that one's a 70-degree angle. Those are reference angles from the terminal side to the x-axis. So don't mistake these green angles for reference angles. They are not. So hopefully this will get you through that first worksheet on angles and angle measures. If you have any questions or comments, let me know, and we'll see you next time.